Hi, my name is Jillie. I'm 15 and I had acute myeloid leukemia. I'm currently 3 months in remission.
When we found out Jillie had cancer, we really were unaware. She had been sick for about a week and a half before, not terribly sick. She was still going to school. She was tired and we really thought she was just kind of fighting something off. No real fevers or anything. She went to school and the school nurse called me and told me, "You need to come get her, she's sick." And I thought, well, that's odd. So could you call her grandma, because her grandma's not at work, and she could come get her. And the nurse was very insistent and said, she has a fever, she has an elevated heart rate, she's very pale, she's very sick. You need to take her to the doctor today. She needs to be seen today. You need to come and get her. So I thought that was odd, but I took that as something was going on that I wasn't aware of, because it wasn't a normal call from the nurse that, So I went and picked her up and called the pediatrician, and they were overbooked, and his nurse said, well, if they're that insistent, you should take her to the ER, because they're probably going to want to do some blood work. She might have some kind of infection or something. So I thought, I do not want to go to the ER. I'm going to be there forever. I don't have time for this. So I just took her to one of the little urgent cares by our house, and it had just opened like the week before, so there was nobody in there. We went in, and they were like, well, she's very pale and her heart rate is elevated. Often that happens when you're dehydrated, and she'd thrown up a couple of times. So they said, well, we'll start an IV and we'll just do some blood work, to see what kind of infection she has. Okay. Well, 15 minutes later, the doctor came to the door and said, could you come out here in the hall and talk to me?
I didn't like that.
No. And I knew at that point there was something not quite right, because that's not typical. I went out and he looked me in the eye and just said, well, your daughter has leukemia. We're not really sure what kind. You need to go to a children's hospital. We can call an ambulance. And I just stood there. I thought we were there for like a UTI or an upper respiratory infection, or I thought we were going to get some amoxicillin and go home. And I remember I asked him, I said, so we need to call an ambulance? I mean, like, she's not stable for me to drive her to the hospital? And they told me, well, you can, but then do you have somebody come pick up your car, because you'll be there for a while? And I was like, you mean we're going to be there overnight? I had no clue. And I just really at that point thought, the blood work's wrong, they're going to redo it, and it'll be fine. It's just a mistake. Anyway, we did go in the ambulance. We got there, they immediately put her in a room and said they're going to redo the blood work, because she was very alert. She was talking and joking with the nurses and everybody, and they said, the blood work we got from the urgent care, what it shows is we would not expect her to be as alert as she is. We would think she'd be much sicker. So we're going to redo it. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably what it is. When they came back and the doctor came in and she says, so tell me, what is your understanding of why you are here? Which I thought was a very odd question, but I learned that is something they ask over and over and over. And so I told them, and she said, yes, all of the blood work came back the same. Your daughter does have leukemia. So we're going to admit her and start chemo tonight, and then we will do some more tests to determine what kind of leukemia she has. And I did not know there was more than one kind of leukemia. I really had no idea. So they put us upstairs and started more tests, and gave her some like what they call preliminary chemo that they give to all, no matter what subtype it is, to start her on that. And within about 24 hours, she was extremely sick. So that's how we found out that She wasn't just tired. Some of the biggest challenges for me is being a single mom. And Jillie is the oldest, and I have 4 younger children. They're 10, 2 9-year-olds, and a 7-year-old. And so trying to, when she was in the hospital, the younger kids all went to live with their grandmother and had to stay there. And there were a lot of challenges for them as well. And there's a lot of guilt with that because all of the, I'm not gonna cry. All of the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and Valentine's Day and all those things that St. Patrick's Day, yeah, that I was not at home with them for. They were with their grandparents, their grandmother, and 3 of the kids had birthdays. And it just so happened that for all 3 of them, Jillie was very sick. They could not come and visit at that time, and I could not leave. So on their birthdays, for all 3 of them, it was a phone call. Hi, Mommy loves you. See you whenever I can get there. And so I just feel bad about that. It's one of those things that it's kind of triage. You have to take care of who you have to take care of when you have to take care of them. But it doesn't mean you don't feel bad about it. And then when I did leave, I got to leave. She was inpatient for 145 days without leaving. So I did get to leave a few times when my mother came up and stayed with her while I went home. And one time I left on Friday and came back on Sunday. And the other 2 times I left on Friday, and one I ended up coming back 2 hours later after a 1-hour drive home and then come right back. And then the other time I came back on Saturday because she got ill those 2 times. So I had to come back, and she had had procedures or different things were going on that I had to be there. I heard about Addie's faith from a friend that we met in the hospital. She had been Crystal. That she had found your organization online, I believe, and told me about it. And so just kind of word of mouth. Addie's faith has impacted us significantly. As a single parent, and I'm a school teacher, so during during her inpatient time, obviously I was not at work, and I was able to keep my job, so I'll be starting in the fall teaching again, but that was in question for a while. But I was able to keep my job, but I took family medical leave, which is great. It helps secure my job. However, there's no pay with that. So I shut everything down at my house, and Addie's Faith was actually able to help me by paying a mortgage payment so that I would not fall far enough behind to put the house into foreclosure. So we are currently not back in our house. We're about 2 weeks away, hopefully, from being in our house. Trying to get everything turned back on and all that. When you have things turned off for approximately 9 months is what it's been. When you turn things back on, they don't always work. So we're having to repair the air conditioning and the refrigerator and the oven and all those kinds of things. So a little bit.
The microwave works.
Yeah. So we're almost there. So, and then we'll be able to be back in our home, which will be really amazing. And that couldn't have happened without Addie's Faith. I think the most important thing to know about Addie's Faith is that there is support, there is help, and people who you don't know care about you and will help you in any way that they can.
Strangers.